Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to TechGeek webinar series, our endeavor to impart techies. We believe that sharing of knowledge is the key to enhance our skills and grow us as professionals. With this principle in mind, we have initiated a series of webinars conducted by industry experts to give you all a crisp insight of various domains. The topic of today's session is NoSQL Past, Present and Future. Our guest speaker today is Mr. Shubham Kumar Srivastava, Manager Technology at MakeMyTrip. Shubham is a software engineer at heart and loves to work around building scalable high-performance systems and solving critical business problems backported on technology. He has been credited being an exceptional leader with a rare combination of business acumen and technical leadership, with examples of conceptualizing and implementing various software products in different domains. Shubham works to MakeMyTrip and is designated as Manager Technology with responsibility for delivery, architecture, operations of a business unit. So without further delay, I introduce you all to our guest speaker. Over to you, Shubham.
Thanks, moderator. Thanks. And hi, guys. Welcome to the event. And yeah, so I guess by now the screen would be visible to you guys. Okay, so fundamentally, as the introduction has said, the discussion is going to be around NoSQL past, present, and future in terms of the basic methodology and idea. So a quick introduction again to an extension of what the moderator said. So I mean, yeah, it's as a kind of a software engineer or more of a kind of an IT professional, the Indian terminology. So these are like a number of things that as a software or as an IT professional you work on and potentially remain mostly the day job around lies with the same. So all right, coming back to what we kind of are being inclined towards as the agenda of this discussion, typically we'll be catering to these 3-4 primary facie points, which potentially highlight one about some particular historic events which have given precedence to NoSQL to what we know as of now. We'll talk more through some of the use cases in terms of where exactly NoSQL as a solution, as a thought process could help you solve your business or your technological problems. Some of the challenges that is beside ahead and is still there to an extent, and of course look at what exactly is the path ahead as of now and kind of understand where basic the line of thought or the line of implementations around this separate set of systems going to be there in the future and how it's going to frame across the problems that we exist right now and even something for the future. So before we kind of begin, just a kind of quick acknowledgement to the gentleman whose figure is right now shown. That's Charles William Bachman, who's kind of one of the top guys around 1960s who have kind of given birth to, not really birth to, but actually have been a fundamental, major role-playing persona around to what we see as NoSQL system, you know, to what it exists right now. So Bachman typically started, the start of the basic data management systems around that 60s point was more around with some of the inventory and invoices management systems and typical use cases of managing a warehouse kind of stuff. And that's where Bachman gave birth to something that we call as an integrated data store, which was to an extent got used to sometime in 90s, but then kind of can't really sustain through. But the fundamental template still holds good for some of the databases that exist till date. So that was in 60s, and then in 70s we have more around the SQL origination, where typically some of the implementation now we're more thinking around getting away with separating code with data, because that's kind of application which typically won't scale just because of the nature of the implementation, and then moving towards from a more complex programming paradigm towards something like a functional programming language, which is kind of shift from assembly to C, and that's where the basic fundamentals actually of the kind of databases that you see, no matter if it is RDBMS or DBMS or proper NoSQLs. That's kind of where the major shift has happened, apart from the 60s origination of what Mr. Bachman would have done. The 1970s, which is like 79, is like your Unix paper kind of getting published with the origination of a specific file system in hand. That's believed to be the best thing out of that origination, and then all the developments which have given us the Berkeley DB, DBMs, and big shots like Informs and equivalent. All right, so that's kind of basic kind of history which I just wanted to highlight as a starting point. Now, before we actually go towards NoSQL, although I don't have specific slides to entertain and kind of philosophize the same thought, and it's nothing that you guys will be hearing for the first time. So there's something that definitely is there at the back of the mind, but just a reiteration just helps to kind of align us towards a similar thought process. So ideologically, there's a lot of kind of debate or kind of more controversies associated with saying RDBMS versus NoSQLs, and potentially NoSQLs will replace RDBMS, and some line of thought say that it would be the other way around. Some of the thoughts say that potentially it works to a reasonable extent, but may not be in a more enterprise kind of application level, or may not be at kind of complete end-to-end financial transactions or equivalent applications level. So the point here with potentially would be a kind of takeaway of this whole discussion would be that we'll not be focusing too much around what is what and what is this query about, what is this controversy about, and disclosing and discussing them further. Potentially we'll like to understand from a NoSQL specific perspective, because there's a lot of talks here and there which happens more around the non-functional aspects of NoSQL, which says that we'll have good performance, scalability, blah blah blah, and so on. But unfortunately, not too much of emphasis has been given to the domain or the kind of use cases or the domain models as such, which NoSQL helps to frame and kind of solves your day-on-day problems. So my emphasis primarily would be more around looking at a couple of the use cases and understanding where typically NoSQL will be better. I may not be able to give you guys a quick dump of all the low-level stuff around specific implementation, and that I'll potentially try to cover in the next some session, like session 2, 3 or equivalent, where potentially we'll talk a bit more around the low levels of how does it happen, how would a kind of a structuring of a data happen to a MongoDB or a Cassandra or a Space or equivalent. How does replication works in each of them and so on and so forth. But at least the agenda of this whole discussion would be more focusing around not the implementation, but on a high level, what kind of use cases typically this technological solutions could solve, right? And given some structure in place, it will not be too difficult to figure out the right solution anyways, right? But I'll try to cover it in my next some sessions, may not be this one, lack of time and stuff around it. So yeah, so typically start with kind of a one-liner description of NoSQL. So NoSQL typically are nothing but an equivalent of non-equivalent of something that we call as a RDBMS, right? So something that we have seen or have grown up with kind of some of the data stores. If you find a fundamental difference between those kind of stuff, that would be more NoSQL in nature as such, right? So again, some of the fundamentals that would typically be a motives kind of or even equivalent drivers which you would have bought NoSQL in frame right now, and that's why this whole community alignment around it is one around scalability and performance. Given that I will talk a bit further on individually on each of them. Second was about cost, and third is definitely about the data modeling thing, about the kind of growth in data that we have seen over a period of time. The kind of one solution doesn't fit all the problem statement as such, and equivalent, and kind of your high expected SLAs around search, writes, reads, throughputs, and so on, right? So that's kind of mix of. So I'll kind of do a quick touch base on each of them. So typically from a scalability and performance perspective, kind of not too much inclined towards what has been written here, but fundamentally the problem that we have seen with kind of existing systems is that the current set of systems, which are more RDBMS and even commercial in nature from a usage perspective, typically are more inclined towards having a vertical scalability in frame. I'm not saying that they don't support horizontal anyways, but typically scaling them horizontally and getting to n level of expected scale is a bit tricky with most of the RDBMS solutions, and typically it goes up to a reasonable extent. You can even take into account figures like 500 gigs kind of scale. Typically these guys would be able to do. But the moment you go beyond that, then potentially need to have commercial support or even have commercial RDBMS solutions as such, which again would come down to the second parameter that we have mentioned, is around the cost thing, which typically means that if you want to go beyond a certain scale, then your cost would be exponential, and that at least having one thought process of thinking through some other options apart from those commercial ones or equivalent open source ones. Okay, so that's fundamentally simple, saying that what does vertical and horizontal scaling means. Whatever Moore's law would be telling you, saying that your processing power will potentially increase with kind of your cost getting down. So that is one, and the other important law says that given a specific dimension, we could potentially have only X number of X set of hardware attached to it, which potentially limits you with the power and the kind of capacity you get. So typically those laws guide you, saying that one, you will be increasing your processing power every year, every X time frame, even doubling or whatever that law says. And on the other hand, it would say that potentially horizontal scaling would be better, because in given a specific area or a dimension, you can't be able to scale up to the maximum hardware possible, so on. Okay, so that's where potentially the difference between horizontal and vertical scaling, and why potentially a horizontal would be better at times with vertical would be there. Okay, so this is again gentleman sharing the something that we have kind of talked right now. I think would be writing something else that just kind of hacked through his Blackboard as well. Okay, so again something that we have talked, saying that potentially your commodity hardware and your versions, upgrades, and so on and so forth would be a kind of hefty costly at times, and may not be something affordable all the time. So that is it. So, and these are some kind of ideas around. So this is more of like context switching, which is saying that we've talked of scalability, performance, and cost, but I'll kind of skip this slide for now, and potentially we'll come back to the slide anyways later. But just to have the context in place, let's get to the data modeling and stuff around a basic use case. Okay, so this is an interesting example here, and I'll kind of give you guys, kind of leave you guys with this to think around, and potentially we could discuss it after the session is over. So let's say if I ask you to design or implement a distributed system which basically would power an ATM, which potentially be a 24/7 kind of continuous uptime, and so that's the kind of basic problem statement. What would be your and given that you guys would be kind of familiar with the basic concepts around consistency, availability, and so on, partition tolerance, etc. So given that all these, so given that I need to have this kind of system in place, how would I design, and what would be my pitfalls? How would I take a cut towards one, looking at scenarios where there could be network outages, which would potentially stop me from linking my core branch or my core system to the ATM as such. How would you deal with that in those particular scenarios? What would matter to you? Would you like to have user come and withdraw cash, or instead see a flash screen saying it is out of order or something? How would you design? How would you think around, one round technology and stuff, and one round business and so on implication? So anyways, I'm just kind of guys leaving you with this, and potentially we'll kind of jump again to the data modeling use cases, which is what prima facie I'm more inclined towards getting you a sense of. I'm kind of starting with a very name and basic setup, and kind of go a bit deeper, just to have a kind of hangout sense of all the basic, fundamentally basic use cases that these solutions could help you around. So look at something that we have talked. So this is a basic use case of one having users, another having items. So it is saying that, let's say you have a shopping site, you have an e-commerce shopping site, and you have various users coming and various items existing on your site, and then you are typically, so this whole slide says that in a more RDBMS fashion, how would you model the structure around users and items and their affinities to each other, right? So that is one kind of a kind of a many-to-many mapping, if you call it in a more more specific term in an RDBMS way. Right? So look at this example and quickly look at to the next slide. which is again something that you can potentially even model in an equivalent of what it did in a RDMS many-to-many fashion, many-to-many mapping fashion. You can equivalently do it in a more so the structure right now we are looking at is more columnar, column-based, multi-column based setup. But immaterial of that, just an example to show. So if you want to actually do an item to, user to item kind of a mapping, this is how you can even do it in a more. So let's say if you want to have one structure that can hold your many-to-many mapping, and that would be one way of doing it. Option 2, where so in the first option we typically had saying that our interest area is only saying which particular user likes which particular item. Here are so here I've just kind of extended that and saying that how could I even have a the vice versa mapping, saying that I also need to know which item, X item is liked by how many users and which particular user like how many items, right? So if you look at, I have kind of two different structure now, user by item and item by user, and both of them give me a sense of what exactly, in terms of figuring at least the relationship out. So ideally what I have done is I've kind of done a more denormalized, duplicated way in which I can now relate IDs with respect to user as well as with respect to item, right? But if you look at, interestingly, the null things that you would be seeing as against something like even user by item and item by user. So here they're typically referring to saying that there is nothing as such from a content perspective. So even if I find out an ID from a user, I still need to go through. So if I ask get all the items liked by user 111, I'll get IDs as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and etc. And then I have to query it against 1, 2. The respective item stuff and to get the relevant data. But if I do this from a more reverse way, which I say that if, let's say, if I am only interested in knowing the name of what a user would be liking, let's say if user 1, 2, 3, what are the names of the items that a user like, then typically the structure that I've given you gives you a more better sense of, which is so. Prima facie, if you look at the structure from which we started with and which exists right now, and even one more, extended information set which potentially gives you every single data that you could potentially want from this structure. So typically in one particular structure, I could hold all the metadata of the parent entity, which could be a user or a item, and then within that particular row, I would potentially have all the affinities against items, and likewise for affinities for likewise for items likes done by various users, right, and even their metadata. So fundamental problem, one of the fundamental solutions that we have looked at is one particular structure that answers you most of your questions at one go. So from a more implementation perspective, we are looking at saying there is one specific structure that I need to query, and then it gives me all the relevant information. Importantly, howsoever it looks like very fancy of getting this whole data through, you have to really understand what is the kind of your what is the equivalent disk IOs involved in getting this data, because if this row is too bulky, then and all of the data resides in potentially disk at some point in time, depending on how the various implementations would have been given the on whatever equivalent you would be using. You need to have a quick have some benchmarks in place to understand. It will give you the best. I mean, although it solves your problem from a query perspective, gives you all the answers in a single structure, and you don't need to run through different tables, joins, this and that. But just understand from an extraction perspective that how much performant this whole structure would be, right? So I have now, with this option 4, have all the options of getting all the information of a particular user, all the metadata, and individual information about what are the items and their names and so on. But I am not able to get, so if I need to have a query which says, give me, give me the latest item which are being liked by X user, right? Or give me a sorted time series sorted order of various likes happening on different items, or what are the users liking in the last 10 hours or something like that, right? So that is not solved with this particular solution. That could be solved with something like this. So typically, from a more nomenclature perspective, this could be something as equivalent to a composite index as such from a NoSQL world, and something that we have even talked in the past was querying item by user or user by item typically would be a equivalent of secondary indexes as such. So this, if you align the data something like this, where typically your time series data is something which is mentioned as a long kind of number 1201010101020, so on. So those typically would be the time series data, and then you could potentially have the relevant information as sorted by time, and then you can start querying it accordingly. Right? So idea here is, given that, so now if you guys would have understood the way we have kind of gone through our like last 5-10 minutes, so the basic fundamental of this is saying that potentially the idea of all these major NoSQL exercises or modeling is to minimize your effort of one around getting the latency piece solved, and other is around efforts around looking through n number of places for getting some data, right? Instead of that, if I have all the data in one place, then potentially it solves my purpose as a whole. Interestingly, the next question you guys would be asking would be around saying, what about normalization? What about duplication? Because how would you cater? How would you answer that? So yes, those are kind of things that you need to keep in mind while picking any of those solutions. But majorly, denormalization as well as duplication would be your first-class citizen to cater in NoSQL world, and that is where you potentially need to take a call saying if it is duplicated, then potentially they need to be updated at multiple places, and how do I take care of that? Because from a relational integrity perspective, you still would like to maintain some and may not maintain other. That's a flexibility that you get, but how much control do you have in updating those n number of places where this data would be duplicated is a call that you need to take. In a more RDBMS fashion way, potentially on all the ORMs that we use right now, those problems are solved by itself. So we don't need to take care of those things. But here your crux is more the reverse way. Okay, so let's also have a kind of quick look towards some of the other implementations that other use cases rather, which you guys can take a benefit from. Which is, I mean, the given quick example is more around something that we have seen in the past slide, which is saying that if you want to query something like, structurally something like this, then some of the NoSQL structures, some of the NoSQL implementations could be able to answer that. And those are nothing but composite keys and indexes. So you can do a CA star as well, and you can do a CA San Francisco as well. So that's kind of one kind of flexibility that you get. The next example is more around aggregation. So here what we are trying to say is that there are n number of products that you have, and these n number of products would typically have n number of, will have their own set of specifics, right? Will have their own set of properties, right? So for example, some of them would have some of the, I mean, something like a name or a price or description could be same for a couple of the items, be it book, album, or jeans, and so on. But a typical jeans would have something extra, which is would be like a model, length, width, etc. And album would typically have something different, like an artist, title. Book would typically have author, publication date, publisher, or whatever, right? So by nature of the use case, they'll have some common attributes in hand, but some of them would typically have their own specifics as well. And that is where some kind of aggregation would help you solve this, where potentially you can exploit the the no schema definition of NoSQL stuff, where you can say that I'm not bind towards a specific schema as such, and depending on the dynamics of the structured or unstructured data, I can potentially model it around the same. That's where something where you could potentially have for the within the same structure, or let's say the same equivalently, let's say the same table, you can have different variation in which you can store values. You can have different number of columns. You can have different number of structure. If it is more of column to kind of map to map kind of store, which is columnar NoSQL store, then you could potentially have a kind of more key value, and kind of n number of nested key values store as such. Okay, so that's more around. So that typically signifies some of the no schema flexibility that you get, right? And that's typically some kind of aggregation that you need to have them to solve it. And although this is something which NoSQL solutions are working right now, which is like the atomicity perspective. Atomicity with respect to individual data stores, or sorry, the individual NoSQL solutions as such would differ based on if that is a document store, if it is a columnar store, if it is a graph store, if it is a key value store, if it is a equivalent of n number of whatever possible options of NoSQL things you would have. Atomicity at a granular level exists as of now, and in most of the solutions that you will get, you'll potentially get atomicity at the root entity level, which would be a document for a document store, which would be a row at a row, or a kind of a row with columnar stores and equivalent. So and even applies with key value store as well, be it in memory or be it disk based. So that's again some kind of stuff. Interestingly, there's a lot of development happening around getting this atomicity extended towards a more aggregated form, where you could potentially do a multi-document update in a single transaction kind of a thing. So it's more inclining towards a more ACID compliant model, where you could, even while getting flexibilities and advantages of your no schema and your no binding challenges, you will still have a kind of a transaction flexibility as equivalent to a basic RDBMS implementation. Okay, so now this is again a bit kind of a different store. So here, if you guys could have understood this whole stuff, I am more interested in this particular scenario in searching on kind of querying some set of data where I have organized this data in a more inverted fashion. So when I say I kept this data in a more inverted fashion, so I'm saying that potentially whatever I need to search against, so if I need to search against city, if I need to search against a user, if I need to search against a specific category, I would typically keep my data as such organized in various structures where I could potentially query it in a straightforward order of one kind of structure. Order of one, not from getting data as such, but typically order of one from at least not exactly getting the data from disk or in memory or wherever, but typically at least simplifying the logic of saying that it's just a one flat query that I need to solve. So order of one typically is a tricky word to use at these places. So anyway, so so all your fundamental search engines are majorly biased around the structure, be it your Lucene or Solar or other stuff, but most of the and some of the document stores as well would be inclined biased towards these kinds of inverted index. Whenever there is a lot of searching and kind of cassetting kind of thing required, you would potentially end up into a solution or a structure around this. Okay, so now this is again one. I'll kind of take a quick time check as well. So we have like 12 minutes left. So this is again one particular structure which is which basically gives you kind of a normalized third normalized form of a typical example of a blog which has like posts, categories, comments, users, and tags, and so on. So I don't want to go into the depth of all these use cases, but from just an example perspective, so you can typically, if you look at this data, this is nothing but doing kind of multi-relational mapping from a child, parent, and many, and so on. Right? So very standard RDBMS implementation. If you want to model this whole structure in a NoSQL way, typically your structure could look like something like this, which is kind of solution one. This is more of a document-oriented solution. So the data store is a document-based data store. So and a NoSQL one as well. So here the only thing that I've done is that potentially the ID that you're referring as object ID would be referred in some other table or structure, while the other next solution would typically cater all the same data at one place, something like this. So potentially I could even have a structure which is which contains all the data at one go, majorly all the data. Still you refer the categories of us and so on with ID, but comments and all, instead of referring to an ID, you have most of the stuff at one go. So this is one again example saying that structurally from a use case data model perspective, if you want to store your data, what are the different variations around how your different data models can be better suited towards a NoSQL world than as compared to the RDBMS world, right? So I mean there are like infinite number of examples which can keep on going with that, but that's just kind of one basic set of examples that clears that. Right? As I said, I'm not going too deep into structures and stuff from specifics, potentially can cover some later sessions. So just with kind of save time in hand, let's kind of do a quick understanding. So typically SQL from a aspirations and why it came into picture, that perspective, it was more around getting your consistency, integrity, and stuff. And when you have all this data, your schema designed and all, then typically you kind of answer questions around, what are the kind of questions I could answer, given that this structure by itself, which is more relational nature, already exists. Then what are the various kind of questions that I could answer? But if you guys would have got a quick sense here, in a NoSQL world, it is actually a bit reversed, right? So in a NoSQL world, it is more around saying that I have a problem statement in hand, I have a data and set of data in hand, and I know where exactly this data can fit in. What is the best possible structure in which I could put this data into, which helps me solve my query problem? So here, the reverse question is that potentially you are interested in doing the ideology of looking towards these kind of solutions from a data model perspective would be saying, what are the various queries I would be running on those kind of structure, given that NoSQL will be the backend of that. So that's a fundamental difference that I could potentially foresee. That it's not a difference as such, but something which with the structure, with this idea in hand, can help you solve your critical problems quickly, at least. Right. So then you have like various data models in picture, which are saying that you have a lot of various structures in hand, saying starting from plain key value in memory stores to a hierarchical graph models, maps of maps of maps, which are more column storage, hypercolumn storage, document databases, and indexes, equivalently, right? So some of the key examples that you guys have been knowing, but just worth mentioning. From a key value store, you have Redis and Cache, white column, HBase, Hypertable, Sandra. Document based is Solr, Lucene, Mongo. Graph data store is again Neo4j, graph based, Log2d. Interestingly, some of the graph databases typically are ACID compliant. So although from a structure perspective, it gives you like solving your social graph problem as such, but it also gives you an ACID compliance. So just in case, that's kind of handy to you. Neo4j for sure does that. I'm not sure what others as well. Okay, so that's kind of a quick, hilarious something that I saw on net and potentially worth sharing. I mean, the way we would have progressed over various NoSQL stores as such, potentially starting from a key value store and then moving towards a more ordered, and then your big table and dynamos and so on, and then your Solr Lucene thing. So I'm saying that this is nothing that we have just realized over a kind of 1 year, 2 years. They're already there in some shape and form. It is just that potentially they have now given a better structure and a better platform. But they definitely have existed in sub-shaping form for sure. Okay, so this is something that kind of we've discussed, saying that what are the typical questions that a schema could potentially ask from a NoSQL perspective, right? So as we have discussed, saying that denormalization duplication typically will be your first-class citizens, and those were kind of something that you need to take into account. Joins and etc. would be something that you may need to pick, may need to have some application logic, some deduplication, denormalization, aggregation, something all in hand maybe to get equivalent multi-join or many-to-many kind of stuff mapped across NoSQL. Okay, so from a path ahead perspective, given that we still are on time, from a path ahead perspective, I guess the world which potentially we would be more looking at from a NoSQL alone perspective would be around getting the basic fundamentals of transaction support into all these new systems, which potentially would mean that you could somehow get an equivalent of an ACID system in place, although ACID by definition of itself would not transform into a NoSQL world, because then you would be potentially challenging it to become an RDBMS anyways. So idealistically, the path ahead would typically will be using this whole schema-less design and dynamic. I mean, of course, I'm talking more around the domain use cases model perspective, but it's for sure that you're not challenging, you're not compromising on the non-functional part, which has been the USPs and will still remain to be, which is like scalability, cost, single point of failures, and so on. So I think from a path ahead perspective, this would typically be your ACID equivalence, your transaction support, atomicity. How would you have a single API definition with change in multiple or coming up multiple NoSQL solutions from an application integration perspective, and then potentially community support. How much viable of a product would that be, and where you could take it to production, support it, and so on, right? So that's kind of the path ahead stuff. From an enterprise adoption challenges perspective, I think there's no yes and no. It's although a lot of debate around should I use, should I not, and so on. Fundamentally, SQL still is reasonably well for most of the workloads, but may not be from an ever-growing big data set or equivalent unstructured data set. That's where potentially NoSQL would come in. So kind of you could potentially use it from a legacy perspective, use it for a more transaction existing setup system, but from a querying, reporting, and at least monitoring, keeping where do you keep your monitoring log data and so on, you could potentially use a NoSQL store, run your jobs on top of that, and then potentially kind of so yeah, so that's kind of next slide says. It says that potentially you could have all your transactions spread operations running on the SQL stuff, but when you need to potentially query it, analyze it, then the structure could be a NoSQL one, which typically could be pretty fast to answer, would be able to handle a lot of write read throughput, potentially to scale up to your increasing data set size and so on. Right? So a basic fundamental would be like saying you keep all your major stuff from a CRUD perspective, from a transaction perspective, at least till the time NoSQLs are not considered best for from an online transactions or financial transaction perspective. I think some of them already are. There are a couple of latest releases, and some of them with SQL Store, which says that they can now do a bulk operations within a single transaction, which equivalently is equal to something in RDBMS world. But anyway, so that's still maturing over a period of time. It's not may not be the best thing to take in production as of now, but something that you can potentially test and check, and if it works, then recommend to the community and so on. So idealistically, this could be something that you could potentially use from a querying perspective, saying that all your data reside in a SQL, but when you want to analyze it, when you want to query it, then running a number of MapReduce or equivalent whatever frameworks or MapReduce used from Hadoop to other commercial stuff, then you can potentially store this data into NoSQL structures, and then you can potentially query it from. Okay, so before we kind of get stopped with the moderator, this is something that we skipped deliberately. So idea of saying, and that is why exactly have, so agenda was to have more emphasis on the domain model part and to have less on the non-functional part, but non-functional will still remain as important as the domain one. So from an evaluation perspective, then there is a choice that you need to make between various NoSQL solutions and saying that which one to pick and which one not to pick, basis your use case and basis your non-performance, non-functional criteria, be it availability, be it single point of failures, be it write read capacity, and so on. So a couple of points which is like how does your NoSQL stuff typically partition the individual data across various nodes or various equivalent machines as such. The flexible data distribution would again be something around saying if I have multiple data centers, can I have a flexibility of saying what kind of data resides where and so on. And if I have multiple data centers, can I also have a uniformity or kind of equivalent a wise distribution of the data across various nodes and various data centers. That's one. Hot swapping nodes would typically be saying that, let's say if you want to kind of add another node, right, or kind of remove a particular node, then it should be it shouldn't get your system down. It should be kind of auto-pluggable. It says that, you know, can I remove a node just like that, or can the system by itself remove a node which is not functioning, not aligned, or do I need to, or what kind of stuff do I need to do for removing or adding a node? As simple as that. From a replication style perspective, you could potentially say that, you know, how does replication happen? What is the kind of guarantee that one data which is written to one node also travels to another data center? And can I associate some high SLA in terms of it has to be? Can I say something that if a data is written at one data center, I should only get an acknowledgement of if it is successful if it is written across all the data centers, right? If that data is so crucial to you. Some of the data which may not be that crucial, maybe a social or a user generated data which you would not like to have such a high level of consistency check. You can just say that, okay, if it's written on one data center, even if it gets replicated over like 5 second or 50 millisecond time span over other data center, I'm still okay. Right? So you should have a clear understanding what is that you are working against, what kind of model you're working against in terms of your use case. From a failover strategy, what does the system, does a NoSQL solution as such gives you flexibility of detecting failures by itself and overcoming that, which is of saying the fact that if two of your node goes down, is your system still be available, still be okay to work against, or does that mean if one node is down, it means that does it mean that if 5 nodes are down, does that mean that your 50% data has gone, or your 100% data gone, or maybe 20% of the data has gone, right? So the data check may not be the right thing to say here, that potentially we cover in the application way. But from a failover strategy perspective, all it means is, all what you're saying is you can automatically detect failures and could potentially be also able to overcome that. And if not anything else, the best thing would be to have all these controls through configuration, where potentially your support guy may or may not be needed to watch this whole cluster 24/7. So that's more from a functional evaluation of how to pick which NoSQL solution as such. So I think that would typically bring me. Okay, so before I go, so something that is already kind of discussed too, that potentially there is no mantra as such which says that NoSQL is better or SQL is better or equivalent. I think fundamentally your decisions or the way things would evolve over a period of time would be that these two systems would exist as a kind of supplements, and they will not be alternatives, at least in a more enterprise kind of an organization perspective, right? Where you have thousands of applications, thousands of data, no control over how much quantity of data that will flow through, and every day will mean a different set of metrics for you. So in that case, I think it has to be amalgamation of both these two structures, which would potentially say that my NoSQL and RDB must quickly combine and quickly solve all my problems on a day-on-day basis, and it will still survive the high consistency ACID compliance that I need for my transactions, for be it financial, be it equivalent, and I will still be able to serve queries or analysis over a specific SLA of like X seconds, milliseconds, or so on. So that's what kind of what we come through, and then it's now over to you guys. I think already almost been on there on time. Yep. So Skandacham is nothing but to have the whole question answer thing working, and you guys are ready with that. Hello.
Well, thank you so much for the presentation, Shubham. I've started assigning you some questions. I hope you're able to see them.
Okay, so yeah, let me just increase the screen size. So the question is, if the data is distributed across various tables and we need to fire joint queries to get data, then NoSQL will be useful. Do I have the name of the gentleman as well? Oh, I have multiple questions. I have to just increase my...
Extend your window. You'll be able to see the names as well.
Yeah. Okay, I got it. Okay. So I'll start with the first question. Potentially the first question is, what are challenges in data modeling using NoSQL? That's why Madhavi Bachu. Okay. See, I guess Madhavi, the question is not around saying what are the challenges in data modeling. The better way or the ideal way of potentially thinking around that would be saying what is the kind of my problem statement against which I am modeling my data, or I am doing a data modeling exercise as such, and look at from various angles from a non-RDBMS perspective, because most of the time what happens is whenever you're doing all these data modeling exercises, you are very much biased towards the RDBMS implementation, because that's the way we have kind of grown up with. So ideally look at, given that if you somehow can relieve yourself from a RDBMS perspective and just think about and a more neutral, non-biased perspective towards all the possible solutions that exist within a particular. Given that this is your problem statement, what is the best structure it could solve it, right? So refer to the examples that we have shown in which there are users, there are items, right? And then you need to have top 10 items which are getting liked, right? Now there could be multiple options, but one option which can be queried very easily with a kind of a single query as such would be something that we have seen in the past, right? The last option as such, right? So so that is one part of the query, but I still answer your the challenges part. The challenges that you potentially may need to encounter in the NoSQL world would be one, looking at how do you make sure that your data sanity is maintained with your data being duplicated. Because if you have a NoSQL structure which solves your query as such in the best possible way, in the best latent way, the other drawback, if potentially you could get that, would be that you may now need to write to 5 different places as well, because some other structure will also be keeping that data. And if one of the data set is modified, somehow you need to refresh the data set at 5 different places, 5 different structures. So that would be one challenge that you would potentially get. The other challenge you potentially may get from a modeling alone perspective would be around performance, saying that you potentially would have a huge write throughput in most of the NoSQL solutions, because it's more around fire and forget perspective in most of the cases. But when you actually need to do a lot of reads, then you potentially also need to look through what exactly is inside that particular document, inside that particular row. Because if your row sizes go beyond a specific limit or beyond a specific threshold, which may still be permissible from a NoSQL data store perspective. For equivalent, MongoDB can give you, I don't know, I think it's like whatever MBs of maximum 2 MBs, 40 MBs, or whatever equivalent of data that you can store in a single document. But you may need to just check what is the complete read output that you get, or what is the system capacity you need to keep. So if I have a row which contains like 150 megabytes of data, then potentially if I'm using a Java-based system, then potentially my heap size should also increase, right? Because if I'm transacting a lot around 150 meg rows, then potentially I'd like to understand how much heap size should I need to have, because everything which comes in memory would again increase a lot, right? Once a string gets serialized and as an object inside your JVM, then potentially the size would increase a lot because of all its nuances of padding and this and that, right? So from a modeling perspective, look at one, how would you manage denormalization and duplication? How would you refresh all the structures in place? Second, make sure that you have the proper latency in mind whenever you're querying. It is not that all the data in one go will be given to you with the best possible latency. So somewhere you may need to check. I'm not saying that you'll not be able to survive because on the read thing. You still will be able to do that, but you may just like to benchmark what exactly in what quantity and to what level. And the third important thing would be to associate second with respect to your server capacity, be it your JVM, be it your deployment of the application. You like to understand how much disk utilization, how much memory utilization, how much of force that these NoSQL solutions would need based on my use case. So if I'm keeping, let's say, a Facebook equivalent of data on a day-on-day basis, then potentially my disk space would be huge, like terabytes or so on, which again needs to be refreshed every day, right? Second thing here would be that I may need to have very high timelines of expiry of the data, right? Because I may not need like terabytes of data every like last 5 days. I don't need those particular data and so on, right? So you need to have the expiry things as well in mind. So all these little and low-level nuances is all what you need to take care of. I don't know if it answers you well, but yeah. Okay, so if data is distributed across various tables and we need to fire join queries to get data, then NoSQL will be useful. So this is by Divya Prakash Sahu. So Divya, excellent question, and I think this is where exactly one of the slides we mentioned that how would you equivalently compare a join to something that you would store in a NoSQL world. So typically joins would typically be managed through again a mix and match of denormalization and deduplication, and then you may potentially have some kind of aggregation as well in picture, right? So if your question is saying that can you manage join with NoSQL as well? Yes, the question is yes, because that is how from a domain use case perspective, the evolution of NoSQL has been there apart from the non-functional criteria. You can definitely do that. How would you do that? Would be multiple options, but definitely look at denormalization, duplication, aggregation, composites, right? Look at all these various options, and even don't shy away from writing a small custom code as well, which helps you to do that. So I'm not sure how much would that be clear. Would be more clear with an example. Okay, so all right. So let me just try to answer all these questions, and then potentially, if I have time, then I can give you a quick example. Okay, the next question is from Sandeep Reddy Kalem, says, hi sir, being a fresher, is it the right platform to choose? I'm not sure if you're asking about TechGig or you're asking about NoSQL to pick. If your question is about NoSQL, I'm not sure it's still there. What do you meant by that, choosing the right platform? So if you're saying that evaluating NoSQL, is it the right thing to do? Is it something that I would recommend? Yes, I would, but always keep in mind that once you have a hammer in hand, everything looks like a nail. So that doesn't mean that you use NoSQL for all the possible use cases as such from a platform perspective. Look at more from a use case per use case, more of a data modeling exercise. So I'm not sure if that answers. And the other aspect that would be to look at even what is that you need from a scalability, availability, and performance perspective. The current set of nuances that you would be shooting against. Okay, so the next question is Abhijit Das in saying, are you hinting the use of NoSQL for being a good candidate to data warehouses, BI systems, since it's oriented towards analysis and reporting? Abhijit, yes, to an extent. What we kind of saying was, I was not majorly inclining towards a business warehouse, data warehouse perspective kind of stuff. So partially agree to what you're saying more from an analysis perspective. I would potentially say that I would need, from a querying perspective, I would love to have NoSQL in place, where typically if I know that this is what I need to query for, then I have classic ability to use the basic schemaless kind of a design and kind of keep all data at one place and kind of get all the data in one go. Does it solve the question for all business warehouses and BI systems? I think it is still evolving. We still have things like Hive sitting on top of Hadoop and even getting inputs from data stores like Cassandra and equivalent. So they still work in a more reporting fashion where they are more dynamic in getting the whole, I mean, in terms of managing the whole bulk of data at one go, they are pretty much brilliant at. the other important thing which comes with the whole NoSQL solutions from a analysis or a more processing perspective is that the processing it becomes very fast with NoSQL when things like a MapReduce thing comes in, right? So that is where the whole marriage of Hive, Hadoop, and even your other NoSQL stores like Cassandra or MongoDB works fine. I'm not sure about MongoDB although, but Cassandra of course for sure. So that's where this is a kind of a standard framework which works for a basis standard framework for getting your warehouses and query processing things on a more performant and non-latent basis. But will it be able to solve all the traditional enterprise level data warehousing needs that you have? Honestly, no. I think the important difference here is that whenever there is a change in schema, which happens in from a structured perspective, right? So if you have one more entity getting changed in your relational databases, then if you compare that equivalent to the NoSQL solutions, you have actually designed the structure or schema based on the kind of query you need. So tomorrow if you need a different query, it may also appear that you may need now to create another structure in place. So I'm saying I'm not doing a contrary statement between saying it is a schema-less design and saying that you need a new structure when you have a new query in place. These two are different things. From a schema-less perspective, I'm saying that with the same kind of data, with the same kind of query, I could potentially have 10 columns with different names, as well as for one particular row, for a different row, for the same structure, I could have 50 or 80 or 1,000 columns with a different name. That is what I meant with this very naive definition of what would schema-less design mean. From a query and creating a new structure perspective, the idea is that you have created a structure based on a query that you have had in mind through your use case or whatnot. And if that use case changes, if that query changes, right, you may, if your boss asks you to get another query, another reporting chart in place, you may just need to create another structure. Maybe with your existing orthodox reporting engines based on RDBMS, be it through your ETLs or equivalent, working on your RDBMS may be able to solve it easily as such. So that's like a partial yes and no. The evolving, I mean, the crisp and one-liner would be that yes, there is a framework in place which helps you do the reporting analysis piece on a NoSQL world, given that you have everything done right, and you also, but also take into account that if you need to change, if you need to have a new report in place, or if you need to change existing report in place or a query in place, what does it mean? That would be very, very use case dependent. May not be any answer would not be able to suffice that. But I guess I would have kind of answered your kind of question. So, okay, so Pawan Rahate says, how much percentage data modeling in NoSQL is preferable than SQL? Oh, Pawan, that would be a tricky question because I don't have any answer on that. It would definitely be on your data model. How much percentage data modeling in NoSQL is preferable than SQL? So I'll give you one quick example. So couple of if I divide couple of my use cases. So one of my use cases is storing user-based data and analyzing them and producing different metrics, which I show on my site and equivalent. Other set of data is my transaction data, which is like I store my data in a more transaction-oriented way with kind of online transactions happening, millions of transactions happening, millions of revenues per day kind of stuff, right? So that's like two different sets of data, right? Now on the firm set of data, 100%, which is like a transaction piece, it's all standalone. 100% of that is RDBMS. I'm still not able to migrate that to the NoSQL world because it's like a bit tricky right now. But if you ask me what do I do with the user-generated content, 100% of that is with NoSQL. I produce lot many metrics out of this user-generated content. I still produce lot many metrics out of my transactions as well. And all these production of these metrics and everything happen through most of the MapReduce fashion and in the NoSQL world. So I'm not sure if that answers your questions precisely, but you know that's there's a different kind of bucket access that you have. I could still have, so if you ask me that, you know, do you have a good use case, do you have a solution in hand right now where you could go ahead and replace your online transaction system which are based on RDBMS to a NoSQL world? I would say yes, I could. Yes, I could potentially to an extent to start with, and given the maturity of those implementations, I could take even a leap further. But ideally it is like a mix and match, right? I mean, how much percentage of what constitutes what from a something that, you know, Abhijit was asking, saying how much analysis and reporting is it more around the NoSQL thing than around the. So if you want to have a complete reporting analysis and all that stuff built from scratch, I would say that go do it 100% NoSQL. Use Hive, use Hadoop, use other MapReduce implementation, and do it if you are able to do that right. Your potential data source will still remain RDBMS. I'm not saying to change that, but potentially your reporting analysis piece as such would typically be completely 100% NoSQL. If you are implementing a complete 100% transaction system, transaction engine by itself, I would say be very, 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 very conscious when you pick up any NoSQL solution to do that, and get it validated from a number of people, get it validated through all the number of use cases that you have, then only pick it. I'm just not scaring you, but kind of giving you a thumbs up, saying that potentially right now we may not be there. You still have some of the e-commerce solutions from even an end-to-end perspective in reporting and whatnot, working on NoSQL, but it will be your own baby to take care of. So that would be my take. You can have a significant portion of your system on NoSQL, significant portion of the system on RDBMS, and some portions which could be like 50% NoSQL, 50% RDBMS as well, depending on what is the problem statement, what is the domain, what is the use case you're trying to solve, and so on. So I guess you got some sense of the answer. Another question, actually. So Madhavi Bachu is saying, can you please suggest some differences where we can sample use cases with respect to data modeling with respect to NoSQL? I think it's a world, Madhavi. I guess there are a lot of references on internet that can help you do that. Potentially, this whole presentation can also help you. I have lot many slides beyond this presentation as well. That would be handy for you as well too. So have a look. But I guess if you don't find any, then potentially we can talk over offline, and then can provide you some kind of data. Okay, so Monisha Thakur has a next question answer, saying, can we get rid of search engines in future for all the use cases of fast searching, indexing, specifying requirement? Oh, not really, not really. Search engines by itself is a from the functional way of what they do. So I'm not sure if you are saying that if you want to get rid of search engine implementations as such, or anyway. So so if I get your question right, I think what you're trying to get an answer for is you're saying that do I need to write a search engine implementation by itself, or do I have another NoSQL solution in place which answers or solves it for all? So I think if that is what your question is, Monisha, replacing search engines, see, search engine is, end of the day, is nothing but a kind of an application, right? It's a software application which is working on a specific set of data which has already been mined through various mechanisms. One which is indexing, the other is a lot of processing and faceting and whatnot, right? So the search engine by itself, if you're saying that, can I have a Google equivalent kind of system running on my desktop? Yes, you can. It's a very standard implementation if you want to start with. May not be as good as what Google is. That's what it makes it so unique. But a standard search engine by itself can build on top of a decent enough indexed NoSQL solution. So if you want to pick up, take some specific, take like 100 gigs of content, right? And use something like Nudge, Solr, and MySQL database, and you'll have a standard implementation of the search engine would be up and running in quick time. So I'm not sure if that was your question. If you are specifically answering around, asking around, saying what a search engine provides me from a output perspective, equivalent of that, can that be stored with a NoSQL, or can a NoSQL by itself give you that? See, NoSQL will not be able to give you by itself anything. It is just a data store. Anything, it will give you capabilities also. It will give you capabilities in terms of indexing, processing, faceting, keeping your data normalized, unnormalized, duplicated, unduplicated, keeping it inverted, keeping it bipolar in nature, keeping it distributed, keeping it sharded, and so on. So all these capabilities typically NoSQL solutions will give you. But if there is a specific need of searching on something like that, then you just need to exploit those particular needs. So the question is not about search engine getting replaced with NoSQL solutions. The better analogy to that would be that building faster search engines with NoSQL solutions as well. Right? So that would be my takeaway from the kind of question you've asked. I'm not sure if that's kind of helps you get a sense. Yeah, okay. So the next question is, okay, so that's what you're saying. I mean, is NoSQL is being considered for alternative for search engines? So I'm saying the Solr, Lucene typically are search frameworks that gives you high capacity text, non-text, structured, unstructured searching capabilities as such. But a search engine by itself would mean a lot more than that, a lot more than that. So I mean, having a searching capability by itself is one thing which potentially Solr and Lucene can give you. What exactly you search for, how exactly you structure that data, how exactly you index that data, how exactly you tokenize that data, how exactly you break that data into various forms of grammar based on various languages and so on. These are some very, very low-level nuances that are part of your search engine application software as such, which has to be programmed, which has to be thought through. From a programming perspective, I'm not saying you have to write each bits and pieces of it. Potentially, all these capabilities will be there with those NoSQL solutions. So it's a mix and match. One is I'm saying I'm giving you complete searching capabilities, and the other thing is that how do you exploit my searching capabilities? It's depending on you. So that's why I'm saying it's not about replacement. It's more of a kind of supplementary software application with NoSQL solutions as such, right? So by the way, Solr, Lucene as such are coming up as NoSQL solutions anyway, right? And the next question is with Monisha, Nitin Vikram. Okay. So I had a lot of names in NoSQL Arena, InfoBright, Cassandra, Hadoop, Mongo, etc. Any standard around this? Any JSR around this through jcp.org? Yeah. So I think this is a brilliant question, I guess. Good that you guys have kind of started thinking around that. And if you would have recalled, I have mentioned in one of the slides saying that there is no common API as such, and which is something that as a community will evolve, or at least could be a path ahead kind of thing. So I don't think there is a standard right now which goes again with all the NoSQL solutions. But something which is getting evolved over a period of time is there are a couple of libraries which are coming up, which are acting as an ORM with respect to all the NoSQL solutions. So typically what these guys are trying to do is to have a single API layer which you can use against multiple data stores. So that's one, at least fundamentally, directionally they are aligned to what you're saying, but concretely saying that is there a specific set of guidelines to follow, to use, by now no. By now no would be a specific answer. But I think we are at least moving around that. Yeah, a good thought anyways. Yeah, appreciate it. Okay, so the last question by and large is, we already have multiple query languages to deal with in data access layer. Is it like NoSQL brings another set of query languages for multiple vendors of NoSQL? Oh, brilliant question. So again, this is something related to what Nitin has been asking and kind of answered right now. So as I said, there is again something which is a path ahead kind, where various kind of ORM layers are evolving, which are saying that use my API and behind that API you can use anything. So that is something which is happening around what you're saying. But yes, the initial challenge is that these. So I'll give you a quick example. Something that I've seen with specifics around Cassandra for that matter is they've come up with SQL 3, which is kind of reasonably mature right now, and it's very equivalent to the RDBMS queries that you do on a MS SQL, MySQL world. So directionally, these technologies, these NoSQL solutions are working towards getting a standard way of getting queried to API or equivalent, and also to an API perspective as well. So I'm not sure if that answers, but look at some of the APIs. There are multiple APIs right now that exist on for these. Look at Kundera, look at problem with us. I'm not reminding right now, but worth of a look for sure. But yeah, so these concerns are very genuine, as a matter of fact. From an application programming perspective, these are something that are still kind of slightly more painful, because on every new NoSQL solutions you have a different equivalent of a script, a header, or equivalent language to be written. But there are bugs around it. I think sooner than later you will have all your solutions in place. All right. I think that is it.
Well, thank you so much for answering the queries of our attendees, Shubham. Thank you so much for conducting the session. It was a great one. I would also like to thank all our participants for the support in making this webinar a success. The recording of the session would be available on techgeek.com by tomorrow. Thank you all. Have a great day.
Thanks so much.